Eagles Talk A2D Radio. We are back. We are talking Eagles training camp. It's here, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to dive into so many storylines and questions surrounding Eagles training camp. So stay with us. You know what it is. Let's go.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Philadelphia!
Eagles Talk A2D Radio, brought to you by Baggio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pie, and you know the rest. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. We are live coming at you. This is your boy Chucks, Brinks, and PY. Gentlemen, what is good? How you doing?
Excited and not excited for Eagles training camp because every little snap is going to get overblown. It's a good football team. Just stay healthy.
Yes, that's part of
Time to find our overrated hopefuls.
Yes. And that'll be part of what we talk about. We're going to talk about everything training camp today, what we look forward to, and what we, I guess, breaks, like you said, what we don't look forward to. I know me and you, we talked about one thing that we don't look forward to, when pertain to a certain Eagles media reporter. So that's something that we're not looking forward to. But a lot to be excited still because we're through pretty much the off season, the summer of NFL football, and we are here training camp. Eagles report tomorrow. They start reporting tomorrow. So
Woo!
exciting. It is very exciting. Football is back, and we definitely need it. Plus, the Olympics are here, so I mean, we get some sports back in our lives. But we are going to start this off. We're going to talk about. So the way I'm going to go about this show for all those listening,
Interesting.
for you guys, is I've got roughly. We'll see how many we get to, but I roughly have 10 different questions of just little snippets, and I'm going to pose it to all three of us to answer, and we're just going to go down the line and answer them. And they're training camp related questions, and we'll see what our predictions are, how we see certain storylines going into it, and how we think this training camp and preseason is gonna play out. So, the first thing we're going to get into, and it's our poll question: Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni's relationship is the biggest Philadelphia Eagles storyline heading into 2024 training camp. Agree or disagree? So, PY, what do you think? Is this the main storyline heading in, or is there something else that you have in mind that you think is more of a storyline for training camp?
So I see why people want to harp on this because it's the sexy issue. Oh my God, well they're having issues. It's a lovers' quarrel. Like things they're not on the same page. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I am always of the mindset that winning cures all. Like, were they not on the same page last year during the end of the season? No, they weren't on the same page all season. Like, I think a lot of the issues were Jalen and him couldn't get in the rhythm. Like, things happened, and there was just no fun last season. Like, I think it's something that people want to bring up, and every answer or non-answer is a red flag to people. Like, at the end of the day, I know Nick Sirianni can lead this team. I know Jalen Hurts can lead this team. I know Jalen Hurts can put up massive points on the scoreboard. What I don't know heading into this season, I argue is a bigger storyline, is can Vic Fangio save this defense? Can he get the best out of the Georgia Bulldogs? Can he get the best out of Quinyon Mitchell? Can he get the best out of all the other young players on this team, like Isaiah Rodgers and guys like that? Like those are like bigger questions I have worry about than Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, because I know I know at their best they can go to another Super Bowl together. At their worst, what? They win 10 games. So, like, as much as everyone wants to harp on the whole relationship thing, the defense is the bigger storyline to me and the bigger red flag to me.
All right. Brinks, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Pete said. I mean, it's the defense for me. I mean, I don't really care if Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts get along.
Yeah,
I don't really care.
Shit.
I don't care. I mean, if you look through the pantheon of good teams in this league, there's probably been quite a few big name, big money quarterbacks that didn't get along with their head coach.
Brady and Belichick.
Yeah, Brady and Belichick, but they won, so no one cared. John Elway didn't get along with any of his coaches before Mike Shanahan. So, like, who really cares? I don't whether they talk to each other every day and have dinner together every Friday night, or they just talk to each other at the facility in a business relationship. It doesn't really matter. This offense has the goods. No one can argue that. This is going to be a top 5 offense, top 10 offense at worst. The defense, I don't know. I'm hopeful. Bryce Huff can be a good pass rusher. Big shoes to fill. I'm hopeful that the 2 draft picks at the top of the draft are good. I'm hopeful that Vic Fangio is just going to come in and wave his magic wand, and this defense is going to be – I don't really think they have to be top 10. I don't really think you need that anymore to win a Super Bowl in this league. You just have to be good enough. And are they going to be good enough to get to where they want to go? I don't know. That's a bigger storyline to me. Who's rushing the passer? Who's playing linebacker?
Yep.
I think the secondary is – I mean, law of averages is one of Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell is going to be good. Law of averages. If they're both bust, then you stink at drafting, and you need to evaluate your process again. But I think Howie has had his misses and reevaluated his process multiple times over his career. So I trust that at least one of those guys is going to be pretty good. So I mean,
both of them hit.
Then you're looking great.
Then you're cooking, right?
But I mean, it's all about the defense. Like, I have no concerns, and I'm not pom-poms out Jalen Hurts guy after last season either, which I think I've been very open about on this program. But he's going to be fine. Nick's going to be fine. It doesn't matter if they're best buddies. Like, win football games. When they were 10-1 or whatever
There's no issues. There's no problems.
No issues. Then you start losing games and getting exposed, and no one adjusted, and then it's not as fun anymore. So
what makes it not fun? When you're supposed to be winning games and your defense is giving up like 90-yard touchdown completions to backup quarterbacks with like a minute to go. Like that, I would not be having fun if I were the quarterback watching that crap.
My biggest pet peeve when I'm watching the games when I'm watching the Eagles on Sunday is when the offense starts hot or gets a big drive going, gets a touchdown, and gets like sort of maybe control of the football game, and then a shitty defense just goes out there and gives it right back.
Yep, I hear you.
So angry, and I feel like I watched it a lot last season.
It's deflating, right? Like you get hyped up, and then you see the defense like give up a touchdown. It's deflating. I hear you.
To give up 7, you couldn't like tighten up, give up 3, so then you're still 4 in the red, or black, or whatever.
Yeah, I hear you. No, great points. You guys hit a lot of great points, and I agree with a lot you said. For the poll question, I'm going to disagree as well. I think it is a talking point, and that's fine. I think it's a something you can fairly bring up. However, I was listening to Jimmy Kempski talk about it, and what he said was really, really fair, and I think it was spot on. He was saying that, like, if you're gonna rate their relationship right now, it's probably around like I think he said like a 5 or a 6. I think he said 5. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably around 5. Whereas a year ago, it was probably really, really good, right? Coming off the Super Bowl. But what he was saying was that a lot of what you guys said, it doesn't matter, because what matters is if they're going to win or not. Like, winning is going to cure a lot of those relationship questions. And his point overall was that the relationship between those two, it's not necessarily the catalyst for the success of the team. It's just a result of the wins and losses. So the relationship is dictated by how successful is the whole team going to be. If they're going to be losing, then obviously the relationship is going to go bad. If they're going to be winning, their relationship is going to be perfectly fine. So I don't, even though I think that, yeah, you can fairly ask if the relationship is really good or not, but in the long run, I think there are a lot more storylines to go off of. I think that if I were to give one storyline and say like what's the main storyline going into training camp, I think is how can these new off how can these two new coordinators fix their respective sides of the ball. That's pretty much it. Like, how can they bounce the two sides of the ball back to where you're getting this team back to Super Bowl contention? Because they're the two new ones and they're running each side of the ball. So and even though like people, I disagree a little bit where you're saying like, is Fangio going to get the defense? Is Fangio going to be a good enough defensive coordinator? I think that we know he's a good defensive coordinator. I don't think the issue is necessarily Fangio per se himself. I think the issue is with all these new pieces on defense, can he get them rolling? So I would frame it that way. Whereas it's not Fangio himself. It's the roster and how they're going to be able to. Are they going to be able to learn his defense fast enough and perform and execute well enough? And like, can we get some of these young guys to really step up? These young guys like Jordan Davis, I liked that pick, but he's got to take that next step. Kobe Dean,
Yep.
I liked that pick. He's got to take that next step.
Yep.
We need Nolan Smith going to the second year. He's got to provide something as a rotation. So we talk about these players. So it's a matter of whether these players are going to step up in under Fangio's system. So I think, and then we talk ad nauseum with Kellen Moore, but like that's a big question mark too. Like it's is he going to be able to fix the systematic issues that the offense had last year? So I think that's the biggest storyline if I were to really pinpoint something. So I don't know if you guys, if you want to, before I get to my next questions, I know soon we're going to have Les Bowen on with us, so I'll have him answer too. But if you were to pick the biggest storyline, would that be it, what I said, or do you guys have something else in mind? Briggs, you go first.
No, probably what you said. And look, these coordinators can be the biggest Albert Einsteins when it comes to football in the world, but they catch no passes, they make no tackles, they score no touchdowns, they don't do anything but try to direct the talent in the right direction. Mm-hmm. It's professional sports is a player talent driven industry. Does coaching help? Of course it does. But like the players at the end of the day need to execute. If the players executed down the stretch, Brian Johnson would look like a genius right now. Mm-hmm. And who was the chump? Who was the chump that coached our defense before Matt Patricia?
Sean Desai.
That guy, yeah. Like if the players executed, like he wouldn't have lost his job. Like the players got to execute at the end of the day.
PY, what do you think? What's the biggest storyline for you?
At this point in time, it's probably the coordinators because like they're like you've said, like they're question marks. We honestly have no idea what to expect from them. And like at the end, we're putting all of our baskets and hoping that having adults in the room for the first time since in a while, like is going to fix everything. Like they're having an experienced play caller and Kellen Moore is going to help Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Having an experienced defensive coordinator is going to help all the veterans and help all the young guys develop. Like this is a lot of hopeful things that we are putting our eggs in a basket about and praying works out in our favor.
Yeah, I hear. So
in terms of like on the field storylines that I personally am intrigued by heading into camp, the Eagles will bring 14 cornerbacks to camp. They're going to keep maybe 7, 8, maybe. So, and there's some names on there.
Oh, high
there's
trade
some names
pieces
on that list that are whatever. I'm just saying it's going to be interesting to see which 7 or 8. I can't see them bringing more than 7.
Gonna be some sad fans in August.
Avonte Max is kind of working out with safeties and corners. I don't really know what they're doing with him, but it's hard to imagine they keep more than 7 corners. So
Yeah, I
there's
don't
going to
think
be
they're gonna
some.
come up
There's
with
going to be some former NFL contributors that aren't going to make this team.
that. Mhm.
That's where
Yeah.
Howie's they got to make that. So as far as on the field, which is again defense, the corner position
Yeah,
is what
good
I
one.
am intrigued by.
That's a good one. Remember, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Let's get to the chat. A little bit before we get to the more questions. So we've got Mike Dunn saying it's hurt season. He also says I'm moving to Philadelphia next year. Hey, look at that. Nice,
No one
nice,
likes
nice.
us. We don't care. Welcome.
So
Because we have
Andrew
low self-esteem.
Andrew Baker says, "What do you guys think of about the option of Nick playing some of the starters in the preseason?
I
Some
don't
of the
care.
starters have to play, starting with Jalen. QBs need rhythm and live speed. Let's save that. I'm going to bookmark that because one of my questions is kind of related to that. So, Andrew, good question. I'm going to get back to that when we get to it. He also said, Mike Dunn says, what happened last season was last season. Relationships will be better. And if any Cal, Leap, or Weiner fan thinks we're going to collapse this year, better think again. I really hope we don't.
Well, they have bigger fish to fry than worry about us.
Yeah, like paying their players. Andrew Baker says, players like Lane, BG, Slay, AJ, Saquon don't need to play because they're established, but other guys like Jalen, Jurgens, Carter, Davis, Dean, Reed, and especially rookies need to play. So that's his take on the whole playing during the preseason thing. Nate Rosario says Purdy is better than Hurts. And no.
I'm not even I'm not even all in on Hurts. Brock Purdy stinks. Nate.
I could play for the 49ers. All I got to do is screen passes and hand off to Christian McCaffrey.
Too. Like, he really worked out this season. This off season comes in.
Yeah, John Malmus. John Malmus has way too much talent on this offense to not be able to put up points. Now the defense front seven is the biggest story for me. Does Davis finally show his ability at linebacker? Is Howie done or one more move? Good question. Brian Daly says, unfortunately, I have to agree with the poll. The media is going to have these two under the microscope all season long and speculate every little thing. And then Daly says,
Daly's right. Go back to that one. I mean, Daly's right. I mean, the clickbait journalists in this town, like Elliot Short.
Oh, they will. Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's gonna when you type in Google, like that's what's gonna come up. Oh my gosh, Taylor, like that's gonna be and like national idiots.
He
like
was 2 of 8 on
red
zones.
national idiots like Colin Cowherd and Skip Bayless. And guys
Colin is up and down, but like he's been pretty good when he's talking about the Eagles, like in the last few years.
He's been fair with the Eagles recently, yes, but he's gotten lazy with his fame.
I can't trust what he says though because Colin Cowherd also flip flops his takes depending on what the engagement's going to be. He's 1 week he'll say one thing, and then the next week he'll go on and have the completely opposite take. So I don't believe any of what he says is genuine. I think he just does it for clicks. So I don't trust anything he says. So good conversation to start. Let me get to some other questions that I have for training camp. So we talked about Hurts and Sirianni, their relationship. Let's go. I have another question now regarding Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts has a bad camp, where would your panic meter be on a scale of 1 to 10? From 1 being not concerned at all, and 10 being like, oh boy, I don't think we're going to have a good season. So PY,
negative $1 billion. Who cares?
2. I don't care.
So
that breaks. I actually don't care. Like I'm kind of with Brinks where it's negative 45. Because remember what Parks was talking about in the offseason last year. Oh my God, Jalen looks quicker. This is the best he's ever looked at in an Eagles uniform. And what happened? Turnovers were up, fumbles were up, and interceptions were. He did get hurt.
I'm not defending ESP, but he got hurt. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Jalen didn't look good.
His knee was hurt. It didn't affect his hands.
But PY, you don't go back on what you've been saying because all ever since last season, you also have been defending Hurts, saying, well, he's hurt. His legs are hurt. He can't run, and therefore that's affecting the rest of his game. So you can't go back on
I'm
it.
not saying it's not affecting his game. I'm not saying it didn't affect his game 100%, but like this is what we do. This is what we do.
1,000%.
This is what we do. We
I
overreact. Are you
I
gonna
will
let me
say this.
finish? You gonna let me finish?
Go ahead.
This is what we do every year. We overreact to training camp. Oh my God, he's 15-15. This is amazing. Oh my God, we're going to the Super Bowl. Oh my God, Sam Bradford was 10 for 10 with 3 touchdowns against the Packers. Super Bowl time. Like, relax. It's okay. There's been times where quarterbacks have had an awful training camp and they played well in the regular season. There's times where they had a phenomenal training camp and they played like dog crap. Like, I'm not going to overreact to it. Another reason I'm not going to overreact to it is this is a new coordinator. It's a completely new system. So there's probably going to be some mumps early on. Like, people are going to overreact to things, which is fine. I'm just not going to fall for it.
So what I will say is I'm not going to overreact, but I'm not going to say I don't care. I would be at like a 4, maybe 5. I'd be a 4 because I think it's notable because then you have to consider there's a real possibility to start the season, week 1 and the beginning of the season, like the first few weeks, this offense doesn't look good. So now you're going to think about like, okay, this offense doesn't look good. It's not clicking. And it's led by Jalen Hurts. If he doesn't look particularly sharp, he's not grasping the new, Kellen Moore's new system immediately. Can the defense get us by? So it's going to have an effect on the rest of the team. So I'm not panicking, but I'm not going to say it's a negative. I'm not going to say it's a 2. I think it's like a 4 or 5 because I think it is something noteworthy that can affect. So like I know there are examples of the players that didn't have a good training camp and they played in the season, but then there are also the opposite. There are a good amount of opposite, and like a big one was when Carson Wentz looked really bad in 2020 training camp. We all know what happened in 2020. So like it's just something to take note of. I think that it's, again, I'm not saying overreact and think the sky is falling, but I'm also not going to say it's at a 1 or a negative. I think you have to take note of it and say, okay, like that's something you have to keep in the back of your mind heading into week 1 if he doesn't have a good camp.
If Jalen Hurts is struggling to grasp the offense, then it's on Kellen Moore to fix it and implement stuff that Jalen Hurts is good at and does understand.
Well, here's the thing. I hear you on that, but then you're talking about deferring back to the offense last year. Week 1, Green Bay, I can tell you right now, their defensive game plan is going to be blitz, 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 blitz. So if that's what they're going to do because they want to see if Jalen Hurts and this offense has fixed what their issues were that led to a collapse last season, then Moore has to implement stuff to show a solution for that. And if this offense led by Jalen Hurts has issues executing those solutions, we got a problem. So that's my only point. Like, you can't just say, like, you have to mold it to what Jalen Hurts does well. Like, that's what the offense has been before. But in terms of, okay, these are the concepts, you stick with it. But there were no adjustments. So you got to adjust. So that's what I'm looking at. Again, I'm not panicking, but I think that it's there would be more concern than you guys are letting on if he has a bad camp. I do not expect him to have a bad camp. I think he will be fine.
What's a bad camp?
Like if the offense consistently practice at each practice, they're consistently not grasping the concepts. If the receivers and him are not getting on the same page, and if it just looks sloppy, like if there's drop passes, if there was that drop passes are not Hurts, but like if there are reads he's not making, if he's inaccurate, if he's just not hitting his receivers in stride, if he's consistently missing guys in the middle of the field, that's and that I'm talking about bad camp in terms of that's a consistent theme week in and week out, almost every day. That would be a bad camp.
That's a stone fact from Mr. Baker there.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Help as well.
Totally, yeah, absolutely, fact. All right, so that's a good. So we had a good disagreement there. Good, I like that. So that's the second question. So third question. Now we're gonna get with the third and fourth question is gonna be a little bit more fun. So, I call this, and I will say a lot of these questions I got inspiration from Shil Kapadia. So props with Shil and his
I'm
pod.
shocked.
It gave me a lot of good. It was good inspiration. He had good questions. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna steal some of these. So these are good stuff to talk about.
Gimmick infringement.
So everyone does it. Don't stop. All right. So number 3, and it's gonna be kind of like what it is for number 4, but I'm gonna have first we're gonna talk offense and defense. Who would you pick to have the Paul Turner Award, aka the player who is
Jesus
going to have
Christ.
a lights out training camp and preseason and be the guy that's hyped up that the fans love that comes out of nowhere? And so who's gonna get the Paul Turner Award on offense?
So my question to this would be,
A timeout. What?
yeah, it is a timeout. Yeah.
I don't know what. Just go ask your question. There's no timeout. We're live.
He's no fun. He's just no fun. No.
With-
For the Paul Turner Award, is this the person that lights it up and is amazing and somehow makes the team? Or is this the person who's putting up all the stats and crap and still does nothing?
PY,
however you want it,
however you want it to be. Whatever your view of Paul Turner was.
Well, he lit it up in training camp and didn't make the roster. So, like, that's my point.
Okay, so go.
Okay,
Then
I'll go so we can move
There
this
you
next
go.
guys
Go
on.
ahead, Brink. Go ahead, Brink.
I'm picking Will Shipley to be the RB2 on this football team.
Okay.
I
Nice.
love that draft pick. I think he's like a better version of Kenny Gainwell. I don't know what he's going to do with blitz pickup as a rookie and all those facets of the game, but this guy's a 3-year starter at Clemson. Really good program. Like this guy was a game, all the big games. He's making big plays. He can catch the ball. He can run outside. He can run inside. He's tough. Like I think this is a guy that the Philadelphia fan base is really gonna take a liking to, if I'm right with my projection of him being good. Because Kenny Gainwell, I mean that RB2 spot's to have. I mean Kenny Gainwell, he's a nice player and everything, but like he's not guaranteed to be the RB2.
Yeah. Or
and they have
if he was, they wouldn't have drafted Shipley.
Yep.
Yeah. And they took that. They got that big back from Georgia. I forget his name. Right.
Kendall Milton.
Yeah, Kendall Milton.
I don't see much happening there, but
maybe not. He's just big.
Yeah,
like
he's a power back.
I hear you, Briggs. No, I like that you said that. I like that you said that.
You need a power back.
I do think that, and I said it the second they drafted him. I think he is going to be the future RB2, the backup by season's end. Maybe I think to start the season, maybe not, because I think he's going to need time to learn what you just said, blitz pickup. He's really bad at blitz pickup, but in terms of like running the ball, catching the ball, like physical talent, he's more talented than Kenny Gainwell. He is. So he just I could see that. It's just a matter of blitz pickup. Can he provide anything on passing downs and pass pro? So I think to start the season, maybe he won't, but by the end of the season, I do believe. So I'm with you on that. I like that pick. PY, do you know who your pick is now?
Yes, I know who my pick is. And unfortunately, I'm going to make Jake Friel cry.
Who cares?
I care, and Chucks cares.
Oh my God, just say your pick.
Eli Ricks.
I said on offense.
Offense.
Oh,
see,
okay.
This is
offense.
On offense. Let's go.
All right, I'm gonna go. You
go. See, I can't be trusted.
On offense, I'm just gonna say John Ross, because I think that like there's been a lot of hype around John Ross and like how good he looked in minicamp. And I think during training camp and preseason, from all accounts, everyone says that his speed is still there. So he's still deep threat. I think that he's going to get a lot of playing time in the preseason. I think with him being a former starter in the NFL, he is going to make a mark. And I think he's going to have some pretty big plays, and he's going to make a case. Will he win a roster spot? I do not know. But I think that a lot of the fans are going to see the highlight reel plays and they're going to cling on to him and they're going to hype him up. And maybe for good reason. I'm not saying that he's already overrated and I would cut him. I'm just saying that I think he's going to get a lot of recognition in the preseason and training camp because I think that all the hype from minicamp is there. I think it's legit. So I'm going to go with John Ross there. PY, do you have yours yet?
So I'll continue the speed motion on this thing, and I'll go Paris Campbell. Like,
okay,
he has familiarity with Nick Sirianni. You know, he had a rebound year a few years ago. He wasn't great with the Giants, but like I think he could add a lot, especially when you're using motion and have him on the outside to be a speed guy and a gadget guy from time to time. Like I could see the value in him. It's like another thing like John Ross to where I don't know if he's going to be good enough to make the roster because I'm of the notion I still don't think wide receiver 3 is here. So, and I think the thought process by bringing him on, the same thing with John Ross is to kind of revitalize and use what he's given for this offense. So I could see him like having a few plays here and there in training camp where you're like, oh man, this is why they brought him here. And then it just ends up being nothing.
Gotcha. Okay. Before we head to the next question, just another reminder. We're brought to you by Baggio's Bread in Mount Laurel. 10% off your in-store purchase if you mention A2D. And remember, hit that like, hit that subscribe, notifications, all of that good jazz. Thank you for following us, as always, and staying with us. So, PY, you gave your answer pretty much already for Paul Turner Award on defense. So Eli Ricks is your guy.
Why?
I don't know if I agree with that, but it is what it is. Brinks,
so
what would you say?
Let him say why. Let him say why.
I love Eli Ricks. Like I think he's super talented. I think there's a lot of hope for him, but I think too many things have happened in this off season that have kind of stood in his way. Like they drafted 2 corners in the first and second round. You know, like as much as I like him, I can't see him like stealing the spotlight from them. Not to mention, you also have Keely Ringo. Like I think, as good as he can be, I think the opportunities that he had last year aren't going to be there with all the talent that has been added to the roster, even if you get rid of a James Bradbury.
Okay. Brinks, who would you pick me?
I'm picking this Oren Burks.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good one.
I like that.
Yeah.
Linebacker. He's 6'3", 233. He's got good size. He came from San Francisco, playing behind Warner and Greenlaw. So like he might be better than like a lot solid special teamers. So like playing behind those guys, you learned a lot because you've seen 2 of the best in the whole NFL do it. And like he might be better than half the linebackers in the league if given the opportunity, which he never got in San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah.
So might be better than half the linebackers on this roster.
He might be better than every linebacker on this roster. There's opportunity.
You're not wrong.
That is so low.
You're not wrong.
So there's opportunity there. Opportunity trumps talent sometimes. Like, especially in I mean, that's one of my fantasy football sayings, but it applies here. He's going to make the roster because of his contributions on special teams. He should. I mean, obviously
he should.
They're not going to listen to Rob Brinkman on A2D radio when they're picking their 53-man roster, but I think he should be. I think he should be on the roster. Yes.
If you look at the last few years of the Eagles, like citing free agent linebackers, it's not a good lock for them to make the roster.
And it's also the Paul Turner Award, so like it's supposed to be someone off the beaten path that think can play and contribute.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not going to say Devin White because obviously he's going to be on the team and obviously he's going to start.
Yeah.
If he does it, we're in trouble.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the comment section. Greg says he disagrees to the poll. Staying and being healthy is the biggest concern issue going into training camp. Andrew Baker says Eli Ricks stinks, and
No, he
right
doesn't. Stop.
Right now, Ricks is behind Slay, Ringo, Mitchell, DeJean, and Maddox. So I mean,
I like
he's got an uphill
Rick's
battle. He's got an uphill battle.
chances of making the roster more than I like Maddox right now, and I'm being serious with that one.
I don't know about that. I think it's a little far fetched, but
Depends
we'll
if they depends if they keep him at
yes.
safety or they're playing him at corner.
Yeah, if he's at safety, then I like Maddox's chances. If he's at corner, then I like Ricks's a little bit more.
There's that. So let me give mine. So my Paul Turner Award probably is gonna go. It's tough for defense, but I think shot in the dark, and that's exactly what the Paul Turner Award is supposed to be. I think I'd have to pick Jalex Hunt if anything. I think he's gonna come in, get a lot of reps. I think his athleticism is gonna shine because it's a preseason. He's gonna be more athletic than a lot of players. And so I think also there's gonna be a narrative like a lot of people are gonna want to justify that third round pick. And so if he does anything good, they're gonna highlight it. So I'm gonna pick Jalex Hunt, but I will say it was tougher to pick.
I feel like Vic Fangio went to like Howie and the scouts and were like, "Yo,
And said
like,
he
I think
wanted-
this
Yes,
guy's a stud.
that's
I
like
want
a known thing though. Like that came out.
him into East."
Yep. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that came up during the draft.
Les.
So,
Yes.
very sorry to be late tonight.
Oh, good. No
but
worries.
I am here.
We're here.
So, yeah.
We're here.
What's going on?
So yeah, we're doing training camp storylines. I'm asking just a bunch of questions, so we can start with the poll question that we had answered. The biggest storyline heading into training camp. One of the things that is talked about recently is Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni's relationship. So do you think that's the biggest storyline heading into camp? We went another way. We kind of all agreed. We think it's the coordinators, but what do you think?
If I were phrasing what I would, if you asked me what the biggest storyline is, I would say Hurts adjusting to Kellen Moore in this offense and whether that really, does the trick. That's my biggest concern. The relationship, I think, will be fine if the offense is fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
The relationship is important, and I think that's one of the problems they had last year. But I don't think them getting along is as important as the offense being something he can really flourish in, and Kellen Moore being someone he can really work with, and him being comfortable, which he was not comfortable from week one last year. He was just not comfortable. So, I sort of see I don't totally disagree with the poll question, but I would have phrased it very differently.
Gotcha. Yep, I hear it, and that's fair. I think it goes along with what we were saying too in terms of the coordinators. I think that's huge because it's just on both sides of the ball too, and maybe not so much Fangio because we know that Fangio historically has been a good defensive coordinator, but there's so many new pieces in terms of players on the roster on the defensive side. So like, are these coordinators going to be able to get these units to bounce back? So I'm looking at
that is big. There's no doubt about it. That's big.
It is big. So when you came in, we were talking about. I posed the question: who would you pick as the Paul Turner Award on each side of the ball? So like in terms of I know like the Paul Turner story. So like guy comes out of nowhere, has a big camp, and
there's a guy like that every I used to really. I loved that. There's a lot of days during training camp when you don't have anything great to write if you're a reporter. And stories like that kind of get you through a lot of dull days, like DeAndre Carter, who Ifeanyi Moma.
Yeah, Moma, yep.
It's almost always an offensive player.
Yeah.
I wish I had known we were going to talk about this because I haven't really looked at the roster. But is there like an undrafted running back or somebody like that?
Kendall Milton, UDFA from Georgia, who I think is a decent.
I picked Will Shipley for mine.
Who did you pick?
Will Shipley.
Oh, Will Shipley, but he's kind of, I mean, he's a draft pick, I mean,
I just think I tried to pick guys that like I think are going to break out during camp and have a chance to
Yeah.
contribute during the season. And I think Will Shipley has a good chance to be RB2 when
and he'll be somebody that fans will be on the side of. That's certainly true. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it. There's those 27 different corners they've got going on.
Yeah.
But again, it's very rarely a defensive player. It's usually an offensive player that fans get excited about. Often a receiver, once in a while a running back, but usually it's a receiver. So Wilson, maybe.
Yeah, Johnny Wilson. And talk about like the new coming of Ifeanyi Moma, right? Like he's big guy and undrafted. So like, it's I could see that. I had picked. It's a little cheating a little bit because he is a veteran, but I picked John Ross just because he's still like a random.
That would be a good story. That guy. He was a first round pick. He set the record for the 40 at the combine. He was a big deal, and for him to revitalize his career here would be, fans would get behind that. Good, that's a good one.
Yep. All right, so the next question I have in line, because I definitely want to get through all these. I think those are interesting questions. I have 5 different positional battles. I want you guys to rank them in terms of order of importance. So I've got right guard, wide receiver 3, tight end 2, linebacker, and CB2.
Well, what are we doing at linebacker? Like, what are we? Just who starts at linebacker?
Well, I guess like just how important is the battle for the starting position going to be?
Oh, okay. We're not looking at one specific spot at linebacker.
No. Yeah. So like in terms of like just all in a vacuum. I mean, for me, I think I'd start at right guard because I think I'd start at right guard and CB2 because those are starting positions and they impact like the thing. So I would go right guard, CB2, linebacker, and then I'd go probably it's tough. I think TE2 is underrated. So I think I'd go tight end 2 over wide receiver 3 because I think that maybe Kellen Moore wants to go some heavy packages, and so like trying to figure out. But again, it's a toss up. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's how I would rank the top 5.
That's not bad.
I think it's corner. I think it's corner.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah.
Not like necessarily who's going to start because I don't think you can like Mitchell. In my mind, is an auto starter, but maybe not. Maybe that's not the way Vic wants to do things. You got to figure out what Cooper DeJean is. You have to see what Isaiah Rodgers is after a year off, and then to your point, they're bringing 14 guys at the position to camp.
Yeah,
they're probably going to keep 7 max. Maybe you can push it to 8. But probably not because it's just such a ruthless numbers game at this time of year. So you need to sift through those 14 guys and figure out the best 7 that fit together in the new system to have your secondary be successful. Because the secondary,
and maybe a couple on the practice squad.
Maybe a couple on the practice. I'm sure that'll work out. Usually does for Howie, but this secondary was a disaster last year.
The outside corners are 2 of the most important players on your team. So if you have a question about starting there, I would say that's a bigger deal than right guard. You can kind of plug in a decent right guard and you'll be all right, but the difference between a decent right guard and a really good right guard is not humongous for winning and losing. The difference between an average, decent corner and a really good corner is pretty darn big on the outside.
True.
I think. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, that would be my top one. And then linebacker after guard, linebacker, and the TE2. They have guys. I mean, it's not like I know they don't have Jack Stoll anymore, but the guy they've been working with for a couple years now.
Right?
Yeah, Grant Calcaterra. Yeah, the concussion guy. that becomes a big deal if Goddard really gets hurt and is out for a while. Then you have a problem at TE2. But for right now, if Goddard's healthy, Grant Calcaterra is fine with me as TE2. But they could all, they'll find something else there. They'll find
Uzama.
Uzama.
Yeah, so I don't worry about that one very much.
Gotcha.
And what was the other? We got 4 there.
Oh yeah. It was wide receiver 3.
Yeah, that's another one. The 1 and 2 are so good that whoever ends up as 3, it would be a great piece if that was a really useful, impactful player. But if it's just a guy who can block pretty good, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
In terms of importance, I mean, it's everything makes a difference, but in terms of what's vital to winning, that's how I would rank it.
Yep, I hear. PY, how would you rank the 5?
So I would probably go right guard spot 1 because I find that just to be the most interesting because like if Becton is what like they think he is at the right guard spot, that's a find. That's like an enormous find, just like the rest of him.
Yep.
6'8", 360 or some ridiculous.
Yeah, he's
like,
huge.
Like that is they were joking about it on the radio. They're like, "How's Jalen going to throw over that?" I'm like, "That's that's tough to get over on the right side."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, he's huge.
So I'll probably go that. Obviously, I think CB2 is important, even though like we kind of have a sense of like where they're probably going to go. It's probably going to be Quignon. If it's not Quignon, it's probably going to be Rogers.
Yeah.
Yep. Linebacker, I guess you could say is important, but like it doesn't really matter because like does anyone like really have like any high hopes like with this linebacking core right now to where like whoever is battling against one another, you're really not like investing too much of your time into that position because they just don't value it.
I think they could still pick up something there too. I'm not sold on what they have.
Like it's Devin White and friends. That's what it is right now.
Yeah. Well, this Bound guy, somebody, I guess Robert mentioned Fangio and Jalix Hunt. Same thing with Bond or how you pronounce it. That's apparently Fangio really likes this guy. So I would guess. And, of course, Nakobe Dean, whom Howie keeps contending is one of the great leaders of all time.
Can he lead himself into some playing time?
Yeah, that would be the case. Off the injured list.
Be nice.
It would be very, very nice. All right. So next question here, and this is a little bit of a juicy one. If it makes you kind of think a little bit, then I've done the job. So given Howie's penchant for being very active, even in the preseason training camp, make one prediction of a trade that will happen.
Ooh.
It doesn't even, you don't have to be specific if you don't want to, but you can. You can be as specific as you want to. But if I'm going to lead it up, I think they make a trade for a wide receiver 3. I think that maybe Tyler Lockett, and I'm just throwing out.
Don't tease me over there. Don't tease me.
Tyler Lockett. So that'll be my prediction. Now I don't know if there's any credence to that. There probably is not, but I'm just throwing ideas out. That would be interesting. So
I have no idea what they might get in terms of a player to bring in. But when I think about him trading during this period, I think those corners, that giant roster of corners, and, would somebody give you a draft pick for Eli Ricks before cut down time? Or somebody like that? I tend to think of him obtaining future assets rather than players, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, that's a very, very good point. Yeah, because we have a abundance of corners right now, and like one has to be expendable. Maybe Ricks, with him being young and having starting time, does present some value to another team. So that's a good question. Or that's
And
a
I
good
predict he gets nothing for Bradbury. That they're just
I don't think he's going
7th round
They
pick.
need
Let's
to
go.
give up on that. Stop trying to make fetch happen. You know, it's
I'm sorry. Did you just reference Mean Girls on this podcast? Les Bowen dropping Mean Girls hints over here.
Love it.
That's what's up.
A Mean Girls reference.
That's
I would
awesome.
sign Justin Simmons tomorrow.
You still want to
Sure.
do Justin
You
Fields?
would
yeah.
do
You
anyone
know, I
else.
read a story about that
Why?
lately. It's
Why not?
apparently when a guy like that is sitting there and sitting there and sitting there and sitting there, I start to get a little, what's going on here? What do people know that I don't know? You know, but I guess he's holding out for real money still.
Yep.
I mean, if he
I
wanted
just
to
don't
sign
think-
for peanuts just to get a year in with a good team, I think he'd be somewhere.
I just don't
right
think
now.
the safety market emerged the way he and a lot of other players thought.
Yeah,
That's
probably.
exactly right, Peter. Yeah. But he's
mean,
got to,
like,
I mean,
there's
at
so
some
many
point he's
still
gotta be
left
like,
out there.
it's time. It's time. There's another, the Judge Judy, he's got to get into a camp somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe he's just waiting for camp to end so he can sign with somebody.
Yeah. That works better with like veteran defensive linemen who don't have to move, who are like tackles, like Sue or somebody like that. I don't know if it really works if you're a safety, if you're coming in to learn somebody's system.
I mean, he kind of know he
was
knows
with
the
Fangio in
Fangio's.
Denver. Yeah, so
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's true.
like at this point, like a contender's going to sign him, right?
Yep.
Like I've read the Texans.
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
can't imagine he's going to
The
sign with the
Ravens.
Panthers or something. Yeah.
Buffalo, like
We said
something like
contenders. What is Buffalo doing there?
well, they need bodies, and if they can
Yeah,
get
they're a contender.
Yeah, offensive bodies.
They need somebody. Yeah, you're right.
Buffalo, I think
They're
Buffalo's
a contender
best option.
that's doing something very strange, it seems to me. But
So I think the Eagles actually have an Alabama reunion and they trade for John Mechie.
really,
Mechie. Okay.
Because
because
they're loaded at wide receiver,
Yeah,
and
they're loaded
like
wide
he's
receiver.
him or Noah Brown, I think could possibly be trade targets.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. Because they have a lot, and like Mechie's probably out of the equation right now. He's probably buried in depth chart.
Yep.
So like
I'm sure Devontae would love that.
Yeah. Mechie had a great story. So that's a good one. I like that one. All right, so next question. I'm down to 3 more, and these are easy to answer, so we should get through these fast. On a scale of 1 to, I guess let's say 1 to 3, how intense do you think practices will be this year? Obviously, 1 being lackadaisical, 5 being Andy Reid.
If I was 1 to 3.
All right, yeah, let's say 1 to 5. So
okay,
that's my fault.
Just changing things up. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 1 to 5. I'm gonna say like a 3. I'll go right.
I'm gonna say a 5.
I would have those boys knock the shit out of each other every day.
That doesn't happen anymore. Yeah,
It doesn't. You're right, Les.
Well, I think compared to
Robert, are you
what
sure you're not? Are you sure you're not my age? You're
this
not
is-
some
I
guy
think
I am.
compared to what they were
I
doing
am.
last
I'm
year,
in the
convinced.
Northeast
I'm
who's
convinced I
like,
am.
I think it's gonna be a 5.
I remember when Buddy used to.
So my answer's 20.
Yeah.
Briggs is an old man. Everyone
Because I am. Yes, because
I don't
Clearly-
remember when Nickel.
clearly what they did last year because they took it really easy in camp.
They really did. Yeah,
Like
and
So-
they had a good rationale last year after
they
the
did, but it
you know.
didn't work.
But
Well,
it did
They
not
weren't
work.
a physical.
That's
They
not
weren't
true.
a physical
That's
football.
not true.
Stop, Py. They weren't a physical football team last year.
So, but you
They were
can't.
not.
So, I am aware of that, but you can't say it didn't work when they started 6-1 last year,
It
and then the
doesn't
year
matter how you
before they
finish,
went
it's
like
about how you
7-1.
Yeah,
it's about how you finish.
Yeah,
Right.
but that's
Andy
not
Reid-
because of
Andy Reid,
training
they kick the
camp.
snot out of each other every year. They're on the verge of their 3rd straight Super Bowl. So like it
No.
works.
Yeah,
Football's a physical
I
game.
think guys
Yeah,
get
the
hurt.
training
when you
camp
do
thing
that.
is not what
Guys
would
get
stop
worn
them
down.
from finishing
Then weed
things.
the week out early, Les. That's my philosophy. Weed them out.
I don't know about
Yeah,
that. But
when
I think
half the
it'll be like
roster
a
is
3 out
hurt.
of 5. I think they will. What I saw last year with Nick, he almost got to the point where the classroom work and the film study and all that was more important
Yeah.
than what they would do a lot of walkthrough type practices.
Yes. Yeah.
And he sets great store in that. I don't need them to kill each other, but I think you do need to be on the field working at normal speed, if nothing else for conditioning purposes, I mean, I know they do a lot of work in the weight room and stuff, but that's not cardio really. It's not football specific cardio. Even if you're running on a treadmill or something, it's not the same thing as, putting your foot in the dirt and making a cut and things like that. I do think they need to take the on-field work more seriously, and I think they will. I mean, they've had a very long offseason this time. Yeah. I'll be shocked if it's like it was last year. I really will.
I want to see at least 5 fights during training camp.
Yeah, you're not gonna see that. So,
well, I don't know about 5, but we'll see 1. So as a follow up to that, for my next question, how many preseason games, and this is based off this is also has to do with the comment from earlier. How many preseason games do you think the starters should play in, whether it be one series or a quarter?
Yeah.
How many games should they play in?
How many preseason games do they even play these days?
So it depends. Some teams do 1. So obviously,
how many are on the schedule these days?
Oh, 3.
3.
I don't need them to do much, and the joint practices, I want to see them really sharp in the joint practices. I want to see them dominate New England the way they should have done in the opener last year. But as far as running Jalen Hurts out there to get hurt in a preseason game, that's less and less of a thing as the years go on. It used to be, the third preseason game out of 4, you played the starters most of the game and all this stuff, but that's so far in the past now. You've got a lot of roster decisions to make, and I think that's what you use the preseason games for. Winnow down those 47 corners or whatever it is they've got. I don't need the starters to be out there getting injured in the preseason.
Mm-hmm. I think I'd be okay I'd be okay if they played 1 series in like the second preseason game, and that's it. I would be okay with this. Just so they can get on the field and game flow. But I'm also not someone who, because I think was it the Rams that started this trend of not playing their starters at all. Like I'm okay with that too. Like I'm okay.
Yeah.
I think it also depends on, and that's why it links and kind of connects with my previous question. I think it depends what kind of camp you're running and what time your practices look, and then how that coincide with the game. So I mean,
the Rams tend to do all right most years.
They do. They do. Yeah, exactly.
But also, like the trend moving forward, and whether the NFL wants this or not, is the live practices between teams it's more important to most teams. Like those are your games. Like those are your preseason games. Like Jalen Hurts going against like the Texans in practice.
Right. You can put 1s versus 1s, and you don't really tackle, but you can have a really good corner covering your really good receiver.
Exactly.
And your quarterback trying to get away from Myles Garrett or whoever. In fact, that was the last one of those I went to was 2 years ago when they were in Cleveland. The Eagles went to Cleveland, and I was a little disappointed. That was the year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. So, I can't second guess anything Nick did really, but you got there and it was not 1s against 1s most of the time. It was Deshaun Watson wasn't eligible to be out there for Cleveland. So, and you had both teams had some guys that were a little nicked up, and they didn't have guys, you thought, okay, this will be so-and-so against so-and-so. It never was, but nonetheless, I think it's a valuable tool, and I think it's a measuring stick, for what you really have. You can see your offensive line working against a real defensive line. In a preseason game, you never know if your offensive line is working against people who are actually going to be playing in the league or not, But in these, you can set up these, if you do it the right way, if everybody's healthy, you can set up these practices, pretty precisely.
I mean, I just answered, I'm running a tough camp. So My starters can chill for the preseason games.
Yeah,
I
you can.
don't need to
Tough
see them.
camp. A tougher camp than what they've been doing is fine, and I just don't think the preseason matters. Like people in the past, like Angelo Cataldi and other people like that, have banged the table. It's like, oh, you gotta be aggressive. You need a tough camp. You need to play the starters in preseason. I remember one year he was going crazy over the Lions doing like 2 days and like all this aggressiveness in practice, and like they didn't do anything. Like,
right. Well, I've seen teams do really well in the preseason and not be any good.
Exactly.
It just doesn't mean anything. You're right.
Yep. All right, fellas. Well, before we head out of here, one last question, and this is kind of like the funniest one of the bunch. I had already said I think we're going to get we are going to get at least one fight in training camp. If you were to put your money on the two players, one on defense, one on offense, to get into a fight, who do you think it would be? I think the easy answer for one of them is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah,
I think Chauncey should be the odds-on favorite as someone to get into a fight. And I think if you're looking at who would be matched up against him often, it's a shot in the dark. But I think maybe CJ Uzomah, the tight end too, trying to get playing time, veteran, doesn't want to take crap from anyone. So I think him and CJ would be the guys I'd pick to predict.
I like that.
I'll say CJ and AJ.
Yeah. Okay. Often it's linemen. I don't know if I want to fight AJ Brown. I don't know if CJ's quite that
Becton to toss someone.
Often it's linemen.
Yeah, that's
Imagine
true.
trying to fight that guy.
Mekhi Becton. So your pick is Mekhi Becton.
Yes, my pick is Mekhi Becton because that just would be fun to watch.
I don't know anything about his personality, but I'm going to take Landon Dickerson and some defensive lineman who's trying to make the roster, who's trying to go extra.
Moro Ojamu.
Yeah.
Him too.
Moro Ojamu. I don't know, like Tyler Steen or something like that.
No, yeah.
I want to see him.
Yeah, Tyler Steen can fight Jalen Carter. There we go.
My most memorable thing, I don't remember anything about guys punching each other and any of that, but I do remember one scene from Lehigh many, many years ago. Might have been the Super Bowl 39 season or right around then. I got up to Lehigh. I was a little late that morning. They were already on the field, and I'm kind of trotting onto the field, and I see John Runyon's helmet go flying way, way up in the air, sort of spiraling down. And it turns out Corey Simon has taken, John Runyon, dirtiest player ever.
Yes, yeah.
Which is why the league has him deciding these things now. Corey Simon has just wrenched John Runyon's helmet off and thrown it as an Olympic distance, pretty much. And Hugh Douglas, seldom at a loss for words, said, "Corey, that's not very Christian."
Oh my God!
But you don't get much stuff like that anymore.
No,
sadly.
Oh my God! Well, training camp should be a lot of fun. Like I said last at the top of the show, we got through it. Training camp is here, so football is back, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot more storylines and stuff to talk about as the weeks come on. And we look forward to it as we got the last month and a half until the season starts. So thank you again, Les, for having on with us.
Thank you, guys. Sorry I was tardy, but
good. You got to finish the show with us, so that's awesome. Yeah. To all of our listeners, again, thank you so much for tuning in. The Eagles Talk on A2D Radio. Again, we're brought to you by Bosio's Red, located Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Make sure you give them A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. We'll be back again, same time next week, to talk about more training camp and preseason coming up. Until then, Chucks, Brinks, PY, and Mr. Les Bowen, of course, and the rest of us at A2D Radio. Thank you so much. Love you. God bless. And we will see you next week. Peace out.
Take care.